It's coming.
Did you see my name I changed?
Hey, we are live.
That's right.
Can you hear me, Tony?
Testing, testing, test.
We're in. What's going on, gang? Hey, had a day. Kind of weird. Nothing really freight involved for me for the first time in a long time. But I felt like I got a lot done. Tried to get through a lot of emails. I'm trying to follow up with everybody. Bear with me here. Got baseball practice after this.
That's a cool sweatshirt, by the way. That's a very cool sweatshirt, by the way. I like it.
Yeah. I got. Where did I find this at? I think it was Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that. But
I think Dick's has those. Yeah, I almost bought one because they're awesome, and my son's swinging a Cat X. So.
yeah, they feel great too, and yeah, Tony's got he's got a son in travel ball. They say he's 12, but I'm pretty sure the kid's 35 years old.
He's a big boy.
He's a behemoth. I mean, he literally he's talking about a home run he hit the other day, hit it over the fence, and like knocked a couple soccer parents out of their seat that were sitting on the soccer field 110 yards past the fence. So
it was a good one.
Yeah, so I got two boys that are playing as well. A game I grew up playing, and it's a fun time of year. So we're having a good time with it. First show here, we're gonna get after it, man. We got some good things to put together. Like I said, there's some things that kind of happened this week that needed hashtag handled, but that we're all over that. So the main thing is we want to keep it rolling, and we're gonna have some good guests. We got some good topics coming up. But today, I've been talking with Tony, and outside of all of his personal and mental issues he's got a lot to offer from a shipper standpoint. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool. It's one of those things where I know I can call him and. You froze. I hope it did this. I hope it did this live. Tell me if it did this live. But you froze right when you were smiling. That was perfect. I got to get a screenshot of that.
Jeez.
But yeah, he's got a lot to offer when it comes to even just shit. Tony Mayer, I'd text you in the middle of the day and send you a picture of something, and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is how we load that."
Yeah,
like we load it like this, and I'm like, "Okay, cool. Now I know what to do." So answering some of those questions and going through those things, I think is always really important, and something that a lot of people don't get. I always say find your Tony, but it's not always that easy. So let's go.
I'm unavailable, by the way.
Bit with just kind of the the how do I say it? The overall approach to your approach to carrier vetting and broker vetting. I guess we'll start there. Just kind of in what you're I think a big point is just kind of what your priorities are, what your main points are, because a lot of people go in thinking like, oh, if I do this or do this, but what is it that you care mostly about?
Well, it's technology and drayage service, honestly. Oh wait, no, none of those.
Tech and drayage?
Yeah. Okay. I need no tech. That's for you.
No tech, no drayage.
No tech. I like the Excel spreadsheet is perfectly good for me, and I don't have any drayage for real. Everybody brags about their tech. That's great for you to keep track of your truck that you carry, that you booked, or whatever that you have on the load. But I don't need that. I need to know that you've got it covered and hashtag handled. Right? All I'm looking for is a confirmation that you're going to be here, a confirmation that you're en route and on the schedule to be on time, and then a confirmation of the POD. That's the only tech I need. I need it quick because I want to be able to close out the month with everything covered, everything copied, proof of delivery, and invoiced. That way we can get you paid. We can get paid by our customers making the delivery to them. And it's just as simple as that. I don't need any of that tech. So don't sell tech. Don't sell. I've seen like 5 people post those. Don't sell tech, sell experience or whatever that post that everybody's copying and pasting. It's trust, man. Right? You gotta sell trust, right? I want to trust somebody. I know that when I reach out to them, they're going to answer my question. They're going to pick up the phone. They're going to answer my email without waiting 3 hours. I want an answer now because somebody's asking me. If I give you a load, you're going to handle it. That's what I need to know. And I've been pretty fortunate in my career to be able to onboard and blacklist whoever I wanted. A little different at Lippert. I've got a guy, and he's kind of a gatekeeper, but I kind of play that guy on LinkedIn Live a lot because I don't want to give you that guy's name. I'm not going to give you that guy's name. Those that know, and those that don't can wonder. But we're not looking for any more vendors. We're actually reducing our vendor count total across the board. All vendors, like not just logistics providers. We're reducing vendors completely. But
well, what are you doing though, Tony? You know what I love that you told me, and when we can kind of get off topic sometimes here. This is not really off topic, but you're reducing your vendors, right? But increasing the utilization of the ones,
right?
And here's, I guess, this is the way when I talked to the guy that you said you did. We'll call him he who shall not be named. When I talked to him, his point was, and I think he had good insight on this, was when they talk reducing vendors, they're not talking about like just taking the ones they have and then reducing that number. It's more like, here's the total number we have now. We want to be at a lower number. However, that doesn't mean it's going to include the ones we still have. It may include new ones, right? Because what they want to do is go to a lower number of providers, but utilize them more, right? On more stuff, which means there may be some lanes in which they give them a little bit more money on, right? In exchange for some lanes that they do less on. But with the, lower number of providers now, the communication, right? The flow, everything else just works out that much better.
Yep. So I send out a carrier expectation to anybody that I do business with. And when I send that to them, when they confirm a load, it says, it gives you a map and an overhead layout of our location and the docks and the receiving side and the shipping side and where to go. Good afternoon, Cody.
What's up,
and
Cody?
I also put on there the list of expectations. I put on there that, we expect to be notified in the morning of your driver's ETA. I don't want to have to reach out and ask you, hey, when's your truck going to show up? I got a load ready and I want to know how long I have to load all of the other trucks that we're loading. So I want to know proactive communication is coming from you. Hey, you've got this load. It was awarded to you. It was spotted to you, whatever, however you got it, you got the load. Tell me when your truck's going to be there, who's the carrier, what's the name on the door, all of that stuff, so that nothing ever has a chance to go wrong ahead of time. Then when they get there, I'll let you know that they're loaded and gone. There's going to be no detention because we're going to have email stamps, time stamps. We're going to get them in and out. And then the next thing I want to hear from you is, here's the POD. That's all I need. Proactive communication, man.
And that, Tony, I think what's cool about that is that when you talk to, I think the main point, I think a lot of people take away from this, but hey, we got Cody in, we got James, Nardell, Scott the wannabe is in the house, or what not be.
Scott's a good dude, man.
I know. Dale's in the house. So I think the main point though that a lot of people take away though is that, like, what you want from, and this is just, guys, there's a lot of things that shippers need or want that are across the board. But a lot of what he just described there is what he needs for his service, for his operation, and what he expects and what he requires. But there's other shippers out there that would say, if I don't freaking hear from you every 10 minutes while this shipment is in transit, I'm going to be pissed.
That's a guy with low trust.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it depends on what type of operation you run, and how efficient, you are with it. And so, and volume, you got to think too, when you've got a lot of volume and you've got, things going on, plus, and you got your balance, your, which we'll get to, your private fleet as well too. So what I'm saying is, guys, is look at what, take Tony Darnell and look at what he's doing. He's in a multi-billion-dollar company that's got how many plants across the U.S.?
I don't know the total number. We're always doing acquisitions and
they're acquiring things. It's probably over 200 now, isn't it?
I don't know. I honestly, God, don't know.
Yeah. So plants all over. They're shipping different types of things, supplying, accessories and parts, and even just full completed things. I mean, there's like all different types of stuff that they're doing in different industries. So, you know, when you look at the shipping level and where he's at, and, you know, managing that, you know, take some of what he's saying and say, all right, now this applies sometimes to these types of people, right? And this applies to sometimes these types. And then, and, you know, as you go, you kind of get an idea of what type of shippers are expecting what, right? You know, if you go into you know, an enterprise account, it's beverages, that they're probably going to want, you know, a certain thing compared to what, you know, Tony's wanting. So, you know, take these things and apply them as you go, especially, you know, in your conversations. That's the biggest thing is, you know, when you have our conversations and you now you know what questions to ask, right? You're trying to get
I spoke on a interview podcast show thing yesterday that was really cool for Supply Chain Brief, and one of the questions there was, what other opportunities are there? And the opportunities of a place in manufacturing with their own fleet are still just as big. They're just not necessarily the outbound loads, right? We put our plants Watanabe. Anyway, we put our plants in relation to our customers. So we try to build local.
Yeah.
So our fleet is running local, but my plant in Idaho needs
Right.
stuff that we have in Elkhart, Indiana. So I will hire out a truck that's going from Elkhart, Indiana to Idaho because I don't have anything to come back. So there's no reason to send our guy there. So there's transfers, there's inbound, there's go find who we're buying our stuff from. Get on their vendor list. I mean, if you want to work, get on there. It's out
and not
there.
just that, but like, you know, when we talk about, you know, even sales and outreach, like research, right? Like people do these research, like go to just Wikipedia and look up like when they were founded and shit. I mean, like it matters, but like research is kind of knowing what to look for. So like with Lippert Components, like they have a private fleet. Okay. You look at where they're at. They've got, how many plants do you have in the Elkhart area? You know that 12, I think.
I honest to God don't know, for real.
Probably around 12. I'm gonna say 12. I think it's 12 last I looked.
It's more than that.
And then Lippert's not the only one that even supplies, but you got the RV capital of the world right there. I mean, that's all the RV companies right there, right? So like he just said, their plants are in relation to who their customers are, right? That makes sense. And why wouldn't you have a private fleet then, right? You pay them hourly, they're shuttling, you know, they get multiple done. But, and again, not every company has that model, but when you're doing research, you know, are you looking at that? You know what Elkhart is, you know, it's the RV capital. I mean, do you know what freight's coming out of there? Why there would be 12 Lippert plants in Elkhart and everywhere else not? Why their headquarters would be in Elkhart, right? I mean, so like those types of things, you know, kind of give you a heads up and an idea going into it, knowing then that like, hey, this is what his structure is. Now, Tony, you're a lot more likely to answer a question. If I just come out and say, Tony, I hear you have a private fleet. Can you tell me about that? You just worked all day. You're like, I had to go through my whole private fleet thing. Rather than me coming in and saying, hey, Tony, I see that you've got, you know, multiple plants, you know, right in your customers' areas there. You know, probably doing some shuttling, some things like that. You know, how often do you use your fleet compared to outside carriers? And how many customers do you supply outside of the Elkhart area? And you don't give me a number.
Right. And that's a smart question because the answer comes with, oh, actually, I'm looking at transferring some stuff because, you know, for some reason, last minute, our sister plant in nowhere other side of the country needs some part that we have an excess of. So I'm actually looking to put something on a truck right now. It happens to be 20 feet long, but it weighs 1,000 pounds. So it's got to be there tomorrow. How can you help me?
Yep. Yeah. So it's an easier question for you you're more likely to answer anyways, even if you don't come out with an opportunity, but there's a chance for you too. So that's what I'm saying just from the research part. But let's get back to Tony because I'm boring.
Likewise.
But so there you go. Yeah, that's what we talked about was what's the balancing the multifaceted transportation needs when you have your own fleet and utilize outside carriers. Now, like you said it in you go ahead, you describe it.
Okay, so we send the plant that I'm shipping out of right now, we build windows and we're putting manufactured housing windows, aftermarket windows on racks that go to companies that make homes. Well, those racks accumulate and they got to come back. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll send about 2 or 3 truckloads out before we have 1 truckload of racks to come back. But our guys are making 2 and 3 stop loads, right? So they are at 2 or 3 different customers, and they're keeping track of the racks, and they get a little incentive for bringing racks back. And because I mean, we need the racks, we got to build the windows. So we'll go back around through these customers that are on route or in line with that lane and pick up racks. Now, sometimes those first 2 or 3 shipments before there's a need for racks, we'll commercial something that's a straight load. And it depends on the customer's orders and where they're located at. But we'll take and send a straight load to single stop customer, unload the racks, and just be done. When I can do that, and I don't need the racks back, and I can have a straight shot. Nobody wants to do 2 stops, whatever. But we have this one customer that you know about from. I mean, it's the same customers we had at the last company, and they're in 2 different towns in Pennsylvania, but 2 different addresses, 2 different municipalities, but they share a driveway and they're buildings right next door to each other.
Yep.
Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to need another $150 for this extra stop. And I pull it up on the map and I show it to them, and they're 100 yards apart because they're in the same driveway.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another one for that same company that they'll send the load over for your customer, and it'll be like two stops, but it's actually the same building. It's you go to one side
and door 2.
There's docks on that side you deliver, and then you go around to the other side of the building, you go to the other docks.
Yeah, plant 1 and plant 2.
and these drivers are freaking out like I need another $75 for a stop. I'm like, I'll give you $5 to get an Arby's melt down the road, but come on, brother.
Yeah, there's some plants that have 2 or 3 buildings on their complex, and plant 1 is here, plant 2 is there, and the service center is in between them. And you pull up between the 2 plants, and the forklift comes from each side, and they're telling you, well, I need all these extra dollars. Well, you didn't even look at it, man. Just look. Right. Look at the address. They have the same address. Come on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for stuff like that. Anything that's out of the way, we'll use an outside carrier for 2 or 3 trips before we'll go and send one of our guys on a random to go back and bring the racks back. Yeah, really, if it's just out of our zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where you're at, and then you got to look at there's other parts of your company that are doing other things, and and it has the difference between I would say like where you're at now and the company where you're at before, both kind of do the same. Let's just say they kind of do the same thing. I mean, they do, but they don't, right? But
they're supplying parts.
Yeah. So yeah, but their structure, their setup is totally different. So it's like you go from like, I mean, the lack of technology, the lack of structure, the super tall tan guy who thinks he runs everything, when Tony's actually his boss, and all the other stuff that was going on there. But they were paying a ton of money too. I mean, like they were paying out, which was good at the time. But then he goes over to this new company, and they're just efficient. You know what I mean? Again, they got the gatekeeper, they got the technology, they got all that. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to see two companies that are doing very similar things, but totally different on the transportation side.
Oh yeah. No offense to any of them over there. I love that place.
Oh yeah, they're great.
They were good to me and everything like that. But just the way of doing things is so much different that there's like the old way and then there's the new way. And I feel like we're in the new way. Like you said, it's just a different world when you have a whole, we don't even have like a corporate team. There's 3 or 4 people total on both companies, and their roles in that corporate level are so dramatically different. Most of our corporate people are enlisted in helping our. Did I lose you or did you lose me?
You're frozen.
Are you there? All right,
there you go.
Now I'm back. Sorry. Most of the corporate people at our team. Oh, that's right, baby. Most of our corporate people are actually in compliance with our own fleet. We have 350 trucks roughly, and it takes quite a bit just to run that. So it's not like they're out there vetting and making sure everybody's on their game and all that. So the onboarding process is slow, it's arduous, and it takes a long time, and it is pretty difficult actually, and right now it's impossible. But
Yeah.
yeah, over the
Unless you
course,
know them.
yeah, it's just a different world right now. But 2 years ago when we were begging anybody with a diesel burning anything to grab a load, it's now we're right sizing that fleet.
Yeah, and I think, one thing I'd say you guys do good is that, it makes you more efficient at the top, but it's still relationship based. I mean, at the end of people are very worried about technology taking over, the personal relationships and things, but everybody wants their job to be made easier. Sometimes technology makes it harder.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, not harder, but like longer. I mean, from the standpoint of like, okay, we got all this tech so we can vet these carriers and we're gonna have an arduous process and all these things. Great. That's actually good, right? Because you can go through and you make sure, everything is where it needs to be and the bidding process and all that stuff. But like sometimes people just want to know, like, hey, I know this guy gets it done. I don't got to worry about it. He's through. You know what I mean? Like, there's different things you can do it. So I don't think that'll ever go away. So relationships are always going to be just as important, but also, just like with anything in this industry, I always say, people talk about like, oh, things are going to go away. Like, okay, because of this, things are going to go away or this, or, capacity is going to go away or this. No, everything just kind of shifts, I think.
Well, let me tell you a secret, man. All of the elevator operators found good jobs.
Yeah. 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 All the milk guys.
Oh yeah.
What are those milk guys doing now? Right. So all the milk guys just threw on some too short for them blue shorts and a strapped backpack, so delivered mail. You know what I mean? Some black shoes and black socks. But but no, what I'm saying is that, like, if technology increases, right, it's going to maybe take away some of that stuff at the upper level that really was just already kind of strenuous and took maybe 3 or 4 people when it shouldn't. And a lot of times then, at the end of the day, your relationships that matter are going to be with people like Tony, people that are, you shift from being, your relationship needs to be with this, vice president of supply chain, to, the shipping manager, the shipping coordinator, or whatever it is, because a lot of the vice president of supply chain's job now is taken over by technology. And now his job is to, do something different and shift. So I think everything's just going to pivot, but being able to talk to people and have that relationship is always going to be important.
I'll tell you what, a lot of supply chain people now are more into purchasing than they are logistics.
Yes. I love that you said that. Did you freeze?
That's big. No.
Okay. Yeah, I love that you said that, because people are talking about, in sales too, being able to pivot and finding a decision maker and whatnot. And that started with you, Tony. You got to turn me on to that. I came to you and I was like, hey, I talked to some company and they were like, hey, our purchasing department does all of our transportation. And I came to you and you're like, oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh yeah. They make all, and then we had a podcast with your guy on, and he made it all made sense. We should do another one of those, but it made it all make sense. When you're looking for somebody, it's your buyers, your purchasers, and even a lot of times your salespeople. A sales guy is one of my really good buddies at Lippert. Works with Braxton Cave up there. He's the one that turned me on to a couple of those accounts that you guys work with. Just because he knows he goes out and visits them and does those types of things.
I was with Braxton the other day. I was showing him a picture from 10 years ago. It was exactly 9 days before he was drafted and into the NFL, and it was a picture of him with my son, who is bigger than him now. He's like, yeah, that was about 100 pounds ago in 10 years. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. We got a couple of NFL Notre Dame guys that work at Lippert now, and it's pretty cool to, we were at this volunteer event packing out. Our night was school supplies, and we were building boxes and restocking some schools for some low income areas that had some need still for this year, and filling that up. And it's cool. I got to see Braxton and Jason was out there. Our entire executive team, our division was paired up with corporate. So Jason was there, Jared Lippert was there, Jamie Schnurr was there, Ryan Smith was there, all of the presidents, vice presidents, executive, everybody else was there, all there. And we had some single piece flow production lines going. We were doing all these lean things. It was really cool. It was fun and useful. And then we got to have some of the teachers that were there receiving some of these benefits that we were donating, and they were able to speak to us too. And it just hearing that from the teachers give back, it was really cool. I don't know. You brought up Braxton. That reminded me because I ran into him last week when we were volunteering. So
yeah.
Right.
And that's, people, at companies like that care. I mean, when he says Jason, he means Jason Lippert, who's the guy that runs the show. Care about the community, and they're in a how would you even describe that area? A small community, but a big community. I don't know, a bunch of communities that make a big one. So it's like a good area to outreach at different. You've got some areas that are super wealthy, and then you got some areas that are not at all. And so, what's their involvement in the community? And
we're everywhere.
And what do people like Tony do? What do they care about? What do they want to talk about? Things like that. I mean, this industry is bigger than just just moving freight. So that's always really, really good. But so let's talk about the flow between the shipping department, and then you already kind of touched on purchasing, sales, and customer service departments that the good things you deal with, the harder things you deal with, how's that flow look?
Well, normally when we're under normal conditions and not during COVID or right now, when there's a happy medium, it's very smooth and easy. But I always say in shipping that slow is hard, easy is very, very busy, because very, very busy is easy to just go and knock all of the stuff out. When it's slow and you're trying to put stuff together and you're still running to the same customers, but the truck isn't full, now I have to be efficient in other ways to save that same amount of money. It just becomes way more difficult from my point of view. So
yeah, that makes so much sense. That's gold right there.
Yeah, it's much more difficult on our end to be slow than it is to be busy.
I didn't think about that. Why do I keep learning things?
Because you want to learn, and that's a good habit to have. But anyway, the way it works when sales drops something in at the last second, like we had yesterday, inside sales calls me up and says, "Hey, can we get 8 patio door screens over to customer blah 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 tomorrow?" And I was like, "Hang on," and I asked my cohort Andy, who he kind of runs our show at the plant that I'm at, and I was like, "Hey, do you have anybody that can run local?" He's like, "Yeah, even if they can't, I can run it over there." I'm like, "Oh, sweet." So I call her back. I was like, "Yeah, we can get it. Don't worry. All right, I'll put the order in." So we put this order in. It was something that we had in stock. We just throw it in there, and we got it done. We had our CDL driver that was back a little early, run it over to the local customer. And we took care of them and exceeded their expectation because they weren't looking for it with, we have like a 3-week lead time or 2.5-week lead time. I don't know, whatever the days are. That's a sales issue, not a shipping issue.
Right.
We adjust our lead time to where our procurement people can get the parts that we need in time to then produce what we need to produce for them, and then have enough time to put it on a truck and get it delivered. But when there's something in stock like that and we can pull the trigger and just make it happen, then, we #handled it and got it delivered next day.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff even handles same day.
That's a great point that you made earlier. But I remember you talking to me about, God, these sales guys are pissing me off. And I'm like, why? He's like, I can't keep up. He's like, I got shipments coming in, and like sales guys are like, oh yeah, to get the sale, they're like, oh yeah, we'll have that to you by Thursday. And Tony's like, I'm 2 weeks behind. I can't even move anything that I need to get somewhere by 2 Thursdays from now. How am I supposed to? So the struggle there is real.
Yeah.
But again, that's not your job. Your job is to put out what you can, right? I mean, as a salesperson, they got to know that type of thing. But that's a good idea when it comes to flow. And of course, the purchasing then is even I think, like you said, there is a lot of last minute orders. Man, some of that stuff that we run out of there, even for like a lot of like your customers, I get tender updates. I'll have 16 of them in a day. I had to like filter out just because usually it's like the name of the company and the tender. You have that kind of filtered, so it like stars it, so you never miss it. But it's like tender update. It goes from like 13,500 pounds to 13,678 pounds. Right. And then the next hour, there's another 180 pounds added or whatever. And they're just adding another door and another door, whatever.
Because they keep building.
But it happens. And I think, there's sales, but there's also purchasing. Because I mean, they got to make sure I mean, what's the judge? I mean, from a standpoint of like knowing how much product you have, you're slow, so you're obviously not purchasing as much, maybe, I guess, but like also the last minute stuff comes in and it's spring. And for you guys, that's a big time of year. So what's the balance there?
Well, I mean, if we can do it, we will. I held a truck up the other day and I talked to the driver. It was just a box truck. And the guy I said, hey, we're going to have this order complete except for this one window, but we got it right over here. And they just put the glass together. It's got to cool down for about 10 or 15 minutes before we can actually set the glass, because it's hot from the ovens and the cleaners.
Yeah.
I said, do you mind waiting about 15, 20 minutes? And he goes, oh, no, man, that's all right. I'm cool. So he hung out for a minute and we went and, I had like the GM and me and the line leader were out there putting this window together and assembling it while it was still almost too hot. It was within specs and everything, and there was nothing quality shortcut or anything. But we got that sucker done and we put it on the truck and we got it wrapped up on the L-buck, and we're able to add it to the load just because the guy was cool and decided that it was all right to wait another 15 minutes so we could complete the entire order in our on time in full, which we call OTIF, OTIF. On time in full. I mean, if one piece of a sales order doesn't go, that whole sales order is considered late. So
Yeah.
we've upped our game from on time delivery to on time in full, and we're starting to measure that metric instead. It's awesome when they up the bar on you, because that means you're doing well. So
Yeah.
our OTIF for this year, 2023, right now is at 99.5. Did you freeze up?
Yeah, you froze there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So our OTIF for 2023 is 99.5, which is amazing.
Wow. Like as in that was for 20 what? That's your goal?
No, that's where we're at right now.
Oh, right. As of now, you're okay. And is it easier to do OTIF when you're no, it's harder when you're slow. Is that what you're saying?
It's harder at all. OTIF is harder than OTD any day of the week.
Well, right, but I mean, is that number harder to hit when you're slow or when you're busy?
Yes.
God damn it! I get it.
That's always the harder number,
it, right? Obviously. Yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, one thing you'll find if you go to don't go to Tony's factory, but if you ever go get a plant, go to Tony's plant. Don't go there. But anyways, you're gonna have people showing up now. Damn it! Sometimes I say the things I shouldn't say.
They're gonna come out with their drayage truck chassis.
I think it's the valuable part of getting out to on site, because it really, man, I tell you what, I don't know, this is how my brain works, but like I'm seeing opportunity everywhere and just making things make sense. Because like Tony, when you make those windows, you're talking, it comes out, it's hot. You got to wait for it. You got to set it. You got to put it in the frame, then wrap it, right? But you guys have all those like cardboard corners and shit you got to wrap and then wrap, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's different types of them. Some have like air in them between them, and depending on what it is. This is furniture, windows, whatever. But like those are made somewhere. I had a customer that made that stuff, that made that cardboard, and then there's like that zigzag in between it. And there's certain thicknesses, and then there's the corner edges for couches, chairs, windows, whatever, in different sizes.
Yep.
You're walking through there and you're seeing all this stuff, and you're seeing it come down the line, and the way it's all put together, you're seeing it come in one door, right, and then be stuck onto something and come out the other door, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's if you ever get a chance, like I said, find your Tony. It's not just about listen, I'll tell you right now, I've not made a lot of money off of Tony Darnell. Well, directly, but from a value standpoint, and just a understanding of everything, and I have made money off Tony Darnell, if you think about it, because what I've learned from that being able to get up and get on site, right, have him walk me through the docks, having him walk me through the facilities, and showing me what all they're doing, and having conversations with him, his bosses, and his people he knows, and those things right there, that does make you money. I mean, at the end of the day. So,
as long as you want to learn.
Yeah, and it's just learning too. It's not even just about that. It's about learning, and it just makes you better all around. And, people always want to talk about, I think I always found myself when I first got in an industry, or sales or whatever, a lot more likely to want to do something shady or want to do something. This is a good point that I never really thought about. I feel like to do something the wrong way is mainly because you don't know what to do. Or
Probably.
you don't know what to say. I think mastering something or learning something and really trying to learn it allows you to do things correctly. I feel like I remember coming in and being like, we have assets, but we want to grow our brokerage. So we'll just say that we're going to use assets on it and not use our brokerage instead to do that, whatever. Like, because I didn't know how to do anything else but that. I hadn't learned, you know what I mean? Now, of course, I had people in my, my owner and everything. We can't do it that way, dude. That's not going to work. But I didn't know, I didn't know anything until I learned and got in and learned out what our assets and brokers can do and everything. Then all of a sudden it's like, I don't need to lie. I can tell them straight up exactly this and it's fine. But like, there's just certain things that I think people just, when you're unwilling to learn, I feel like it's because you feel like I don't need to. I can take this path.
And there's no fake it till you make it. I mean, you have to
No.
figure out how to make it, and then you can fake that you know it because you do, and you just don't. You're not confident in it yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I think it's fake it till you sink it. You know what I mean? I think you can fake it all you want, but it's going to eventually sink on you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a difference between faking it and what do you call it? Just having confidence. I mean, really. And the fact that even if you don't know it, you're going to go figure it out.
Right. Once you figure it out, you might be faking it and getting it done because you don't fully understand it. But once you figure it out and you have an in-depth understanding of how it works, you're not faking it, but you just know it more thoroughly. Like I couldn't understand. I could not drive a stick shift until I saw the exploded diagram of a clutch and the pressure plate and the flywheel and everything and how it all connected, the throw out bearing. And when I saw how the clutch pedal worked and you pushed that, and then when you let it off, it allowed the pressure plate and the clutch plate to marry up, and then they would spin. Then I knew how to drive a stick, and it was
Makes
easy.
sense. Mm-hmm.
And I was So when you like you were saying, if you go to a plant and you visit a prospect or a vendor that you have, a customer that you have, and you understand how their stuff works, it's a whole lot easier to service them.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. We got Jonathan. Jonathan's in the house. Rodney Gaines is. Oh, I thought. God, my computer's so far away. I thought he was saying ho ho ho. I thought he was like Santa Claus in it.
It is a little early for that, Steve.
Rodney Gaines, a little early. Of course, my sister is like a Christmas freak. She's still sending out like updates on how many days are left till Christmas. She's one of those. But yeah, I think that's a great point. I think all of that combined and brought together. I mean, just that the learning aspect of it, and understanding what exactly you can do to get better. It just allows for the conversations and the things done correctly. I think that's just the biggest thing. That's what we were talking about before. What about talk about your budget a little bit? Hey, how much time we got?
We got a minute.
Yeah, we got a minute. Yeah.
So here's the deal.
And again, guys, for each shipping coordinator, whatever, it's always going to be kind of different. But how do you determine, or who determines, and then how do you manage and plan around your budget?
So the budget is determined by sales, and not salespeople, but sales dollars. So my budget is a proportionality to sales. There's a ratio, and I have numbers that I have to hit. So my freight budget, my freight spend, my delivery budget is a lot of times not tracked in the way that you would think. I mean, we're not like a logistics company. Somebody asked me, how's it different running a private fleet than it is running a carrier? Well, we operate at a loss. We're not a for-profit carrier. We are a loss value add service to our customer. Our customer buys stuff, but they don't want to come pick it up. They want it delivered.
Yeah.
So we offer that as a value in the price of the product that they're buying. And a lot of manufacturers are like that. So running the private fleet and then commercial shipments, they may be in two different buckets on the P&L statement, but they come together as a % of sales, and that has to be in a range. So when I'm beating you up on price, it's because I have to hit my numbers, just like you.
Jonathan's got a great question here. Is your freight spend budget realistic in most cases?
You know what? I'll tell you this. I've been to a ton of places. Nobody knows how to run a truck. Nobody knows how much what it costs to run a truck. I mean, this conversation's been out there for years, and I love it because, um, and Will said something today, Jenkins, about
Yep.
people would be way better off, and there'd be a whole lot less protest for rates if they were more focused on how to run their business than just being an owner operator.
Yep.
And I was like, amen, brother. You're preaching to the choir. I was a terrible owner operator. I pissed away all my money at the bar and being stupid and being young, but that the rates are realistic if you know what you're doing. When you have to figure out what it costs to run, you don't know what you're doing as far as running a business. And if you don't have that number laid out, I can tell you exactly what it cost me to run my trucks. And I'm not going to, but I can tell you all of that. I have that all figured out in metrics that don't make any sense to you. They make sense to my GMs and VPs. So I can provide that detailed information to my bosses and their bosses so that they can go to bat for me about what it is that we're doing and how we're winning. One of our core values at Lippert is to be passionate about winning. Well, Sean Kale, one of our lean leaders, said, how can you be passionate about winning if you don't know whether or not you're winning? So I got to keep score.
Yeah. But is it your freight spend budget?
Yeah.
Is it realistic?
Absolutely. We're getting it done all the time. It's a percent of sales. So when sales fluctuate, so does our budget. Our freight budget fluctuates. It's always a percent of sales.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And you think that's how it is everywhere?
That's how it should be. It should be tied to sales.
No, I agree.
The problem, my feedback on that to the upper folks is if they order a truckload or a half a truckload and our truck is running it, it doesn't matter. That budget doesn't change. It costs the same amount of money to drive that truck out there, whether the truck's full or it's got two skids on it. And so, like I said, it's harder when we're slow. I got to hit numbers. So I got to find money somewhere.
Yeah. So you're constantly playing Tetris all day. Yep.
Define guys are running. Well, KPIs, man. If you don't know your numbers, then you don't know if you're winning. Yep. You got to know your numbers. You got to stay within the boundaries of whatever the people that are in charge or yourself or whatever goals you set. You have to define I tell people, like, my leadership style is this: if people are competitive by nature, whether they want to admit it or not, but you got to clearly communicate the goal and then clearly communicate and give the team members a way to measure themselves against that goal, and you'll know whether or not you're winning. Your team will know whether or not they're winning, and you'll all win together. Clearly communicated goals and a way to measure yourself against them. Mm-hmm. That's true in management. That's true in a team. Yeah,
I think, for me, I think KPIs are important, but I think one big thing too that people kind of, I don't say lose track of, or maybe don't even implement, is like there's winning. Okay. Like if you want to define it as like the end goal, right? Or, whatever it is, but there's winning along the way too. And I think, something a lot of people miss on is celebrating those small wins.
A lot of times winning is taking the least loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's a win, and so defining things as wins, and I think, I talk to, baseball is such a mental game, and that's why I love it, because it really is. And that's why I love it. And that's why, I've got a coach. My dad's a Hall of Fame coach, has done stuff that no one's ever done when it comes to that stuff. So it's in my blood, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think about these things all the time, and little wins, right? Those little wins are what get you through, it's what gets you through. If you're a pitcher, I talked to my son, he's pitching for the first time this year, and, he's worried about, a ball, he threw 2 balls in a row or whatever it was in the dirt, and, but he battled back, got a foul ball, got where it needed to be, and then gets the strike out. That's a win, or, has a guy pop out. That's a win. They scored a run in between, but you got out of that inning, or, things like that. Like, you just figuring out what little wins are to you, and then how they lead to the big goal, right? And the final win, I think are extremely important. And that's part of budgeting. I mean, if you look at, when you talked about being an owner operator, I mean, shoot, I mean, you're talking to Lewis, you talk to those guys, like everybody has a lifestyle that they like to lead or something they like to do, and they get these habits, right? And so it's like, yeah, the rates may not work for you, but like, or is that just because they don't work for your habits or what you're doing, right? Listen, man, like a lot of people don't understand, like as an owner operator, there's a lot to break down, and when I was running these guys, I was fascinated by it, right? Because we had customers that we had to work with, and, we had owner operators that could leave whenever they wanted to. I mean, and I just took that on so much to where I wanted to know what I could do to save them money, what I could do to make them want to run some of this freight a little bit more, than what they wouldn't, And so it's like, I mean, there's certain credit cards at certain travel stops that have certain types of points you get, right? Certain things off of fuel. Mm-hmm. And if you could find a way to, and I know technology does this a little bit better now. And so there's a lot of resources for owner apps to do this, but, I'd find ways to break down the routes, especially if there were loads that were kind of running the same routes, and how close you were to each one, what one to go to, depending on what you could get out of it, whether it was fuel, think about meals. I mean, shit, you run up enough points at a Love's and you got, 16 free hot dogs and 17 free Cokes. And you know what I mean? Like I'll
tell you, one of the most expensive things to do out on the road is eat.
Yeah.
Much less eat healthy.
And I think that's another big thing too. And I had a couple, and I fed off my guys. It wasn't me. I was learning back then. I mean, I fed off some of the guys. I was like, hey, you always talk about how you cook in a crock pot. Tell me about that. Well, what I do is I do, and he goes through the whole thing, and he goes shopping before he goes home every 2 weeks. He goes home for a weekend, gets all his stuff. He goes shopping, and he knows after a week there's a place that he has to stop again and kind of refill some of the stuff. But every morning when he gets up, he sets his crock pot up and starts cooking, right? And puts whatever it is. And sometimes it's just meat, whatever, or sometimes it's a full meal. I don't know, but he's able to eat on that then, or, things like this. There's a lot of things that go into it. And that's just an owner op. I mean, just in this industry in general, that's how it should be for everything. You should be fascinated by the fact that, I just went through it, freaking out. Oh my God, we didn't manage our money well because we were making money. Oh, big surprise. That's how it works. That's why I don't ever feel sorry for anybody in this industry, man. It's like, if you're out there bitching about it, like, it's probably because you're not managing it right. You know what I mean? Yep. And so it should fascinate you. You should be like, hey, listen, okay, all right. Let's break down what we're spending, how we're spending, what the value we're getting from this is,
what is the return on your investment?
What is the return
everything that you spend money on?
Are we tracking this? And even if you're not, you can't sit there and say this, oh, I failed because we were never tracking this. That's how you learn. That's how you get better as you go. And you're like, okay, this is something we got to track. Right? Because
try again and know that you got to do that this time.
Yeah, we sat down to break it down and we didn't have these numbers. If we had these numbers, oh man, we'd be in a good spot. So we need to make sure we track this moving forward. So like, that's how you develop and get better. You know what I mean? And that goes from the shipping side of things. That goes from the ownership of a brokerage. That goes to from all over. That's what it is. And that, personal finances, it's all about that. I think it's extremely important. It's something that a lot of you guys, or a lot of you guys, shippers, have to deal with on a daily basis. It's like nobody wants to sit down and go over their budget, at home.
It's always cumbersome.
Nobody wants to do that, but you're doing it all day long. You're balancing a checkbook all day.
Yeah, in essence, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know how to do that. I don't use checkbooks.
Shut up, I'm old.
Can you guys perhaps share your experience with us, how things were for you all during early COVID? I'm curious how you all fared back then when most carriers were seeing $1 a mile. I'll tell you.
For me, nothing's changed. It doesn't matter what the rate per mile is.
Yeah.
Am I getting the job done? And am I getting it done at the best price I can? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it was, so that's when I went. So I was director of sales operations on the brokerage side, and COVID hit. We were very automotive based, very heavy on that. And Ford shuts down, they all shut down. So we go, we're losing money, losing drivers. So they brought me back over, director of sales operations, over the asset side, to kind of revamp that, get it back going again. So, I mean, I was able to come in at real early COVID. I mean, we went from doing really well. I mean, I think we went to like, we had around 100 trucks, but I think we went to like 550,000 revenue a month or something like that. In 3 months, I got it back up about 2 million. But a lot of that is, again, I broke it down. I said, okay, why do we have 63 extra lease trailers rented right now? Oh, well, because nobody was really running it over the show over there. Business dispatchers kind of doing their thing. Our brokers was growing so fast. Oh, well, like guy went in to get a trailer, up in Dearborn, and one of the tires was flat. So, and he needed a trailer. We had to run the load. So we rented one there, and then it ended up down there. And then now it's just been sitting there. It's been there for 2 months. Like, what are we going to move it? We're paying monthly on this. So, you kind of break down one step at a time what happened, what you can do to make it through. Right. So I cut that from 63 down to like 28, and we were strategic, like be strategic. Where's the next trailer? Right. Where is the next trailer? Don't just say, instead of looking where the next trailer is and then what I'll do is I'll just rent one, and back then you could rent one, then it became where you couldn't, but you know what I mean? Like that's Lewis. When Lewis was on the fleet, I was like, hey, when Lewis comes through town, have him drop his trailer. He could bobtail over to Sydney. I got 6 trailers sitting over there. Have him drop his trailer. So when Dale comes through, he can just grab it and be there. You know what I mean? Like there's ways to do it, but you got to think and actually get around it. So it took adding some protocols and procedures too, right? I mean, how do we keep this from happening, right? Do a freaking post check on your trailer when you drop it. Don't be dropping a trailer that's got a flat tire, because the next guy that comes in, damn it, is going to be late if he picks it up. God, that pissed me off. So I put out a thing. These guys didn't listen. There's ones that did and one that didn't. And I put out a thing saying, listen, if you don't do this, you know what I mean? Like we would dock them. I would give them like what would I do? Instead of docking their pay, we gave them like $100 credit to, shit, I can't remember, somewhere, one of the travel stops, and then also like a reduction in, or we took care of a certain inspection that they used to have to pay for. But if they were seen dropping a trailer, it was easy to track because you drop it in the system where it's at, last person on it. If it's got a flat tire, or whatever it is that they did wrong with it, and then you lost that. You lost those things. And that turned that around too. And so there's just efficiencies that you got to kind of dig in, I think, a little bit more on than what you didn't. And then Jonathan just said on the spot market, on the spot market, the biggest difference in early COVID was that everything slowed down. I mean, there really isn't a ton you can do about that. Right. I mean, everything slowed down. Things weren't selling in stores, and they were trying to pull inventory, and so I don't think the spot market was really a great place at first. It became a great place. He said February and March of 2020, but about midsummer there. But at the beginning, I think everybody was just kind of shutting down, scrambling, and waiting to see what the hell is going to happen. I mean, that was something that nobody really dealt with before. So those are just conversations you had with people, and who was willing to get out and drive, and who was even going to be open. Right. I mean, to take your shit, I mean, that's when, look at all the warehouses that were built. Shit ton of
That's when we had to come and yell through the window.
Yeah.
Pull up outside and we'll yell at you.
And nobody knew what protocols were going to be needed yet. I mean, this was February of 2020. I mean, that's, that was March 2020. So yeah, so it was just I always talk about, my degrees in sports medicine, athletic training, physical therapy. It's like, how does that relate to logistics? I don't know. I just happen to be blessed with it. But what I was good at was what I was good at when it came to that. There's people that had those 4.0 GPAs, my athletic training program. But what I excelled at was running onto the field, right, as an injury happened, and staying calm and understanding the situation, because you got to be in control. You could run out there and the kid could be faking it. You could run out there and he could have half of his bone sticking out of his arm, right? How do you control the scene? How do you keep him calm? How do you, do you have it, get a towel, cover it up, make sure there's ambulance on the way, get everybody else back. But you got to be able to make a decision and be able to pivot right there in the moment. You can't freak out.
And you have to be the calm in somebody else's storm.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. And you see it from owner. Oh my God. You see it from ownership. You see it from all over, where it's like, oh my God, we're losing a little bit of money, and they make some rash decisions, and they do things that are stupid and could ruin the reputation for a long time. Sometimes they do it to the wrong people. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm just saying,
There's a lot of
it's-
opportunity out there if you're willing to learn and go get it.
Mhm.
You got to
Yep.
handle it. That's why
Yep.
that's why we renamed the show. You
Yeah.
got to handle it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You're going to have to get out there, grab your bootstraps, pull them up, and get after it.
But have some people there that could support you.
Yeah.
People that you could talk to. Sometimes you just need decisions reaffirmed, you know.
Hey,
to
I
do
learn
certain
stuff
things.
from TJ all the time because I don't know his side of the business at all. I'm
Yeah.
learning. I'm learning every day.
Yep.
When I get on LinkedIn, I'm learning more than anybody. Trying.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's important, man. So this is good stuff. So, hey, you know, there's always plenty more to come out of Tony's brain. I mean, not a lot. Usually when you shake it, it just sounds like there's empty cans in there, but
Yeah, it's like pennies in a water bottle.
he cooks a mean nacho, but yeah. So, you know, it's important, you know, find your Tony. I should hashtag that, find your Tony.
Trademark.
But it doesn't even have to be even, you know, if you got a buddy that works at a you know, manufacturing plant or something, like, just pick their brain, man. Just learn. It makes you better.
Yeah.
It really does. It makes you more confident. You know, you go through things and you think you're not going to make it, but you're like, you know, or some people would think that, but when you get to that point, you know you're going to. So make connections, get there, guys, and you know, hey, we're going to have a good top. You know, next week we're going to dive in a little bit more kind of on the load boards and some different strategies that I see a lot of people talking about or whatever it is, and you know, have a good guest on there and see what Tony has to say about that next week. So
I don't have any ideas.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you. I'm gonna get you like a big poster or something to put in the background, like something cool. I mean, I like your ceiling fan. It's not bad.
It's just sitting there.
It's cool. Yeah, it's not even on, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna get back at it next week, guys.
On Thursday, not Friday.
Yeah, on Thursday. Yeah, we're gonna go back to Thursdays. But you know, we look forward to a good show moving forward, and we're gonna get on all the other podcast platforms as well, and so that way you guys can go back and re-listen to them, and hopefully, you know, take a little bit away from it.
Thanks for chiming in, guys. Appreciate the questions.
Yeah. Again, you know, every time you guys are on, let's bring some questions and see what we can get done. All right. See you guys.